Well, welcome everybody. How are you doing this hump day, day after tax day in the United States? Ain't you happy? Come on, everyone, don't jump up all at one time. But any case, we're still alive, at least for the moment. Well, depends on what alive means. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I much appreciate it. I think you're going to find today's show to be an exciting one because we have our good friend Mr. Ryder Lee returning. And Ryder, just want to say thank you for coming on. And it's always a pleasure. We got a topic today that is impacting all of us. But before we get to that, I just want to say favor over everybody. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Everyone in the chat room, much love to you. Thank you. And before we get started, I'm just going to reverse it. So, Ryder, tell everybody, because I see the channel is growing, where they can find you. We'll get it right out in the front. And if you're not subscribed, what's up? And if you ain't hitting the like button, what's up? But anyway, so Ryder, tell everyone, and thank you again for coming on, how they can find you on after hours, meaning this hour.
Thanks so much for having me on, Wayne. Really appreciate it. It's always an honor and a privilege speaking with you. If people are interested, they can find me on Raised by Giants on YouTube and any and all podcast platforms. And yeah, and also watch my documentaries. They're both out on Tubi now. So you
Wow.
don't have to go to Amazon Prime. You can watch it for free on Tubi. So wherever you can download the Tubi app, you can watch both JFKX and my latest documentary, A Clockwork Shining, which is examining Stanley Kubrick and The Shining and The Clockwork Orange, bringing new theories and insights into the mix. Yes. Ooh, tax season. Tax season hit me hard, hit me like a freaking ton of bricks, Wayne. Holy crap. Hope everyone survived it and everyone's good.
Yeah, they keep talking refunds. I'm going, what refund? I didn't. I had to, like you, pay. But I just want to give you kudos too, because I find it interesting now that, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are in there and Trump has, fulfilled what he said was going to release the JFK files. Thought it was so fortuitous that, you had made this, what, a year and a half ago?
Yes, it came out at I think it was 2023 actually. It says 2023 on Amazon Prime, but I keep thinking it was last year because it was just both documentaries kind of being
Yeah.
in the process at the same time. So I got confused on the actual year, but it says 2023 for JFKX. And yeah, we're just kind of sitting back. We might end up making a sequel to the movie because there's so much information that we can now put in there. So
Yeah.
eventually we're just with the 8,000 JFK files that was all dumped, we're kind of sitting back and like waiting because we know that there's something within those files that's going to, kind of prove what we were saying happened with the JFK assassination. So we're just kind of taking a step back, letting people kind of go through them because that's a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
and see what happens with that. But we probably will either be doing a sequel to JFKX, JFKX 2, or we'll be doing a director's cut or
Sure.
something of the movie.
One thing I was surprised about from, I have not read them. I've just heard of other people who have read it, and they said that one thing that surprised them was the involvement of Israel in the assassination of a United States president.
There's a
And
lot of interesting
whew,
stuff in there. There's things about
I
Kim.
mean, jeez, it's like, you know, Jack was a good man. I mean, um, wow, but still piss off the Israelis and watch yourself.
That's right. And he was trying to cut funding to Israel, and that was
Hmm.
you don't do that. Anybody
Can you just
learn?
imagine what kind of AI Israel is producing? I mean, we think about Russia and China and the United States, but heck, you've got nations now that, you know, they have a permanent axe to grind, it seems. And if they unleash an AI, I mean, crap sakes.
Yeah, I think we're heading in a really dangerous territory at the moment, and so many people have done shows on AI, and they're like it's the Terminator, it's the. But I mean, I think it's going to be a lot more subtle than that. I mean, it's kind of getting to the point right now, Wayne, where, and I was talking with Matthew James Bailey. He's one of the leading experts on AI on my channel, and I was like, hey, Matthew, like it's getting to the point now where it seems like it's reading your thoughts. Like I'll
I think
just
it
be
is.
I'll be laying in my bed and just thinking about stuff. Okay. Not speaking it out loud, not watching any videos on it, not Googling it, not typing it into Google, because that used to be the way that it would work, right? All the apps would track all the other apps. So if anything that you searched on Google or that you put into Facebook or shared that you were interested in, it would then recommend you ads based on that. But now it's changed to where it's like it's there's no other explanation other than it's scanning your mind. Like
That's scary.
I would be thinking about martial arts because I've taken martial arts since I was like 4 years old, and I was like, oh well, maybe I get back in the martial arts. Maybe I can like start teaching martial arts because I can obviously teach it. I know a lot about it. And then the next morning that I wake up, I have nothing but local martial arts ads in all of my social media. Like, I've never once watched a video about martial arts. I've never once looked up martial arts. Like, nothing besides like the standard UFC ad that you'll get sometimes because UFC is really popular, but it wasn't about UFC, it was about martial arts. And so I'm scrolling on Instagram and on Facebook, and it's like, do Muay Thai in your local area, like do karate in your local area. And I'm like, what is happening here? But that's just one example. I mean, that's happened several times in the past couple of months. And I'm like, holy crap, this is getting really scary because if this thing can literally hijack into your mind and read your thoughts and then give you information based off of your thoughts, that's a very scary reality.
Very scary. And I think that's what's happening. I mean, we're talking about the forthcoming AI wars, and there is so much to cover. So I had a recent conversation with an associate, and the conversation got to AI, and um, we were discussing how AI is now integrated to everything. I watched the Masters part of the game, and every commercial was AI. You know, IBM saying you can have a penthouse AI, you can have a basement AI. You need AI. And when I don't know if you saw my broadcast on Monday, but talking about how we're being harvested. It's our data. And they're literally feeding off of us, literally. And if they're doing that and we're willingly complying, not resisting, because it's almost impossible to resist, and then you get back to this police state of watching everything. Um, that's all reality now. And it's been told to me that the weaponization of AI has really been kicked into high gear. So, is George Orwell's dystopian future now here? Uh, the real reality, I have so many articles in here. How the AI war, how will humans end up? Will we win that or will we lose that? When you look at now with the blending of AI and robotics, we're now seeing that the actual chores, that the jobs, the things that we do for our livelihood, uh, etc., is now going to be encroached upon by artificial synthetic beings. What say you?
That seems to be what's going on. I mean, several of the big AI people have all been talking about how it's going to replace a lot of people's jobs. Now, make it come off as if it's undesirable jobs, like things that nobody wants to do. But that's just the beginning. At first, it will take away some of the
Can I
undesirable
interrupt here in
jobs.
something?
Yeah,
Lynn and I have a friend that white collar worked at GM, replaced by AI.
I know a few people that has had that has worked for these big manufacturing, these car manufacturers, right, as an
Hmm.
operator that has been already replaced by
And
AI.
this is a white collar guy,
Yeah,
been with the company 30 plus years.
yeah. I know someone at Toyota that just recently got let go because his position is no longer needed.
But to your point, and I apologize for interrupting, but yeah, these are not just labor jobs, no, these are six paying figure jobs.
But that's how it's going to start, and then it's going to start to branch out from there because once we've accepted that as our reality, then it's going to be easier to let it keep encroaching upon our everyday way of life. And the movie THX that you had me watch, uh, I was really fascinated by this. I watched it last night and I had never heard of it before, but it turns out that it was George Lucas's first movie that he ever made in
71,
19,
right?
yes, in 1971. And this was produced by Francis Ford Coppola. And
Apocalypse Now.
this movie was super interesting and it had a lot of really advanced concepts for its time that is essentially happening right now. And a lot of people have said, oh, well, George Lucas had to have some kind of insider information just based off of the fact that he made Star Wars and all this advanced stuff. Well, I think this movie is even more scary than anything else that he'd ever done, especially it being his first movie. And I'm watching it, and that's another thing that I really like about old movies or older movies is that the dialogue isn't as strong, but the filmmaking is a lot more strong. They're trying to tell the story through the filmmaking. And I watched the director's cut of THX on Amazon Prime, rented it. And I don't know if the director's cut is different from the regular cut. I'm sure that it is.
I think it has extra added scenes and commentary.
Yeah. So as I'm watching it, I'm like, because I'm trying to figure out exactly what's going on because I didn't know anything about it. And the way that the story is told is like through the style of filmmaking. So you have to watch the movie and not rely upon the dialogue between the characters to understand exactly what's going on. But essentially, it's this underground facility where humans live at, and they're essentially building robots for their own enslavement, which is almost identical of what's going on in our reality right now. We're essentially building these AI programs to enslave
Control
us.
us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love the movie, particularly when you and I were talking last week. What got me, and it's the one scene that I always remember. It was the older guy, when they had made the escape from the White Room, and he came into a church, a chapel, and you had priest, you had, the caretakers of the temple, the church, and who and all. And the thing about it is, you talk to God. God was right there, and God knew everything about you. I mean, and this again, I was 16 years old when this movie came out. So it hit us right in that time. Try watching it on acid. But I digress because you'll never forget those freaking robot cops. I mean, you know, it impressed me because, living on the street, you saw cops as a whole different projection. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, that's one of the first things that I noticed because they'll essentially go to this like chapel area where the AI God gives them, it's essentially confessional. It's a
Yes.
confessional like the Catholic Church is a confessional. So you walk into the booth and then you tell this AI God exactly what's going on in your life, and then it feeds you back information like obey and stick to the plan and stuff like that. I don't have the exact quotes because I just watched it last night, but it's basically persist and stay through, see it to the end,
Comply.
yeah, basically obey and comply and make sure that no accidents and stuff like that. But I don't think that they realized that it was actually an AI. And
No, no.
that that's what it I mean, when you look at the whole idea of confessional anyway, I think that the Catholic Church and the confessional was the first information like data collection between humans, right? Because if
Yeah.
a regular person goes into a confessional and tells everything to their priest, they have all the
Who
dirt
may not
on
be
that
morally
individual.
centered.
Exactly. Yeah.
By Mrs. Robinson. But no, and the one thing I found as well with the movie, and it's so relevant today, is that so humanity is now underground. We messed up the surface. And again, as you said, so the whole society and the culture is about making these robots and making these what we would call today AI systems, fully integrated with robotics. And as I told you, the takeaway that I see from the movie is that humanity humanity's not mature enough to take care of itself. And so we look for a surrogate in whether it be religion or technology, etc., to take care of us. And then that allows us to, to think and to do otherwise. But yeah. And so let's advance, nearly 49 years later. Here we are. And today, I believe, Ryder, that AI has been weaponized against humanity.
Well, back to your thought of like humans not being able to govern themselves, because that is a popular topic throughout all disaster movies and throughout all zombie movies, throughout all end of the world movies. It
Yeah.
starts out as the big crisis, right? If it's a zombie movie, if it's a end of the world disaster, asteroid coming down and hitting Earth, the problem is that we have to we humanity takes care of that issue first. So we take care of the zombies, and then the zombies take a background to the people. So then the further that along you get, now it's shifted from this external crisis to a human crisis. And then there's these structures that then begin to form. You get like tribunals, you get little councils of people that have survived this catastrophe that is trying to rebuild civilization. It seems like we just continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. And we've talked about this several times, me and you, Wayne, on several shows in the past. It's like we just continue to want to have that type of power structure at the top. Now, whether that's government, whether that's like a council, whether that's a tribunal, I mean, that's what they're doing in the show The Last of Us on HBO now.
Hmm.
It's like an apocalyptic zombie type reality where these infected people have, and now they're in a city where they have like a government council tribunal now, which resembles the root of what government was before the apocalypse happened. Right. So it seems like it's like this unavoidable type of scenario to where if something were to happen, it's always going to lead back to some version of government. And which is kind of sad that we can't think of any other type of way to do it. But when it comes to AI, that's what I believe AI is shaping up to be. I mean, when people talk about AI, they talk about AI as like a god, right? That AI is going to solve all of our problems. It's going to solve all of our issues. Now, it might not solve them like right out the gate, but it's going to take a while. The AI is going to clean up the oceans. It's going to clean up the environment. It's going to fix all of these problems. Like we
That's
can't fix
God.
them. But it's going to clean up homelessness. It's going to clean up,
All the society's woes and ills.
but we can do that. We can literally do that. I
We
mean,
can, but we never do.
but that was proven in San Francisco whenever Xi Jinping was coming to San Francisco. They cleaned up everything in San Francisco. They cleaned up
Sure.
all the homelessness. They cleaned up all the tents. They
Yeah.
made it clean. They all the trash and everything. But then as soon as he left, boom, they all came right back. So it's proven that we can do these things. We can help the environment. We can clean up the oceans. We can end homelessness. We can end starvation, but we just don't. So now we're relying upon this AI super god intelligence that is essentially going to do it for us.
So
Okay.
to go back on your on the observation that we can do these things, but we don't. To me, and if I use modern day medical standards, particularly in psychology, you would say that that person is mentally ill. They do not have the cognitive skills that would should allow them to quote unquote live a normal type. So we as a species have proven ourselves. We can do all these things, but we don't. And it just, like you said, we never seem to advance further. Now, I don't know if an AI existed in the past. My theology training, and I quote the book of Ecclesiastics, is that which once was shall yet be again. There's nothing new known to man under the sun. That's how the book of Ecclesiastics, Solomon supposedly wrote that. All right, so if I was to take that literally, then it means that we're repeating a cycle. And the question then becomes very real. So if we see AI, and by the way, we see it in a humanized term, it's AIs. It's not one. It hasn't reached the singularity yet. Although I'm on the list at the Singularity University, which is owned by Alphabet, and that is where they're working towards. They're working really towards this singularity where the uh, amalgamation of all the AI programs can be into a centralized system. But so here we are today. We can solve homelessness. We can solve hunger. I think we can solve cancer, disease, but we don't. And the question is, then why would rational species of intelligence don't do this? And then it gets back to this AI. So is AI a benefactor or is it a very malevolent potential doomsday for humanity itself? I personally think they've weaponized it now. That's going to become more and more evident when we don't have any rights. We don't have privacy. And if some idiot that is controlling this, and I don't know if there is such a single person or if it's a corporation, what if they decide to go rogue?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much as weaponized at this very moment as it is like uh that it can be turned into a weapons. And I have this photo here to share with you in the
There we
audience, which
go.
is AI, like your actual eye, your third eye, or the all-seeing eye, or the eye of the pyramid, or eye of Horus, that's on the back of all of our money, and AI.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is depicting a surveillance state,
it
right?
looks reptilian to me too.
So the AI is, like AEYE for the people that may be listening to just audio and not watching the video. Then you have AI. artificial intelligence. So you have this idea of a surveillance, an all-seeing eye, right? Which then, takes you back to the Eye of Horus, and I mean, that's what people have said, that the pyramid in the eye, the Illuminati pyramid eye, is really all about is surveillance. It's the surveillance, like, I always, that saying, I always got one eye on you. You know what I mean? That's why all the symbolism is like covering that one eye.
Yeah.
Is because it's like I got my eye on you, you know. So it's like when I seen that, I was like, oh my god, how did this get past me there? Like, that makes so much sense. AI, AI.
So as you were talking, I was getting this download. So I mean, it was with the founding fathers. They were well aware of the all-seeing eye. Um, and it's interesting. So could it be said that from an esoteric point of view, that the Eye of Horus, who dates back 5,000 plus years, what if it was a program all along?
Yeah.
I mean, people keep saying, well, if there was a catastrophe, if the sun went nova and what have you, that would be all of computers and AI. But no, it understands it doesn't need electricity in the sense that it understands Tesla. It knew Tesla's wireless electricity was real. The United States knows it. And yet, we still live in a culture where we generate dirty power when in fact it could be free power. So again, this is authoritarian, it's dystopian in its nature, and now they're bringing that. I don't know if it's a culture, if it's a mindset, into an artificial intelligence. That's what we call it. And it's propagating itself everywhere.
Well, when you think of the implications of what actually AI is, I mean, when you look at the Book of Revelation, and again, you know that I'm not a religious person. You know that we've had several conversations about religion and Christianity. But I just think that it's really interesting how in the Book of Revelation, and you can flesh this out for me, Wayne. But basically, and I'm paraphrasing, that the Book of Revelation essentially says at the end times, there's going to be somebody that comes forward. Everyone's familiar with this. Everyone knows this. That is essentially going to be the antichrist. Okay, now what do we look at AI as, that I just mentioned? We look at AI as this God that is going to fix all of our problems and fix all of our issues. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, was the Bible correct? Is this prophecy of the Book of Revelation correct? And we're looking at this in the wrong way, though. We're looking at this as like a human being. We're looking at this as like a man that's going to come down and is essentially going to prophesy himself as the savior when he's really not. And several people have said, well, this man's going to come out of Israel, and it's going to be the third temple or the fourth temple or whatever it is. And whenever that's built, that's going to signify that the Antichrist is here and everything. Well, maybe this is the third temple. Maybe AI is the third temple or the fourth temple. Which one is it? Is it the third temple or the
It would
fourth
be the
temple?
third, well, technically, yeah, it would be the fourth temple. The
Okay,
first
so
temple was built, so it would be the third, excuse me.
the third. Okay, so it's the third temple. What if AI and what AI is encased in is the third temple that needs to be built, and we're building that right now, and the artificial intelligence itself, which we're going to all look at as like a god, is the false god, is the essentially the antichrist. I mean, there's nothing more anti-human or anti-god than a artificial life, a robot. I mean, if you just look at it on the basis of,
Yeah.
exactly what it is, a machine is everything that is not godly.
So
So,
I had the privilege of knowing Tim LaHaye, who wrote the Left Behind series. and we belonged to the same private organization. I'll just say, but we had dinner with him and his wife one night, and because he had a unique perspective on what the end days was looking like. Now he has passed over, but when we were meeting with him and having dinner with him, I asked him, I said, so how did you come up with this idea of this Antichrist? And he said, well, he had dreams. There was messages that were given to him. Very interesting as I was listening to you, just thinking about karate and then getting your ads. But more directly, I think he would have probably wrote a different version had he had a better understanding of computer programs, algorithms, and how powerful they really are. Because I think you're right. We keep thinking that the Antichrist is going to be a physical man because if you read the book of Revelation, it talks about how he does things. But what people don't understand is that it's not a human man. And, you know, if I cut the conspiracy hat on, I could say that Donald Trump fits all the parameters except for a few of being the Antichrist, or someone who's very close to him. Could it be like a advisor or like an Elon Musk? I mean, they're building systems. They have a vision that is a synthetic version of humanity. Now, they're very magnanimous because they see this as aiding humans, helping humans. But isn't that what gods do? I mean, and it's my position as a philosopher. I'm almost 70 years old now, and so I can actually wear that title. I earned it, you know. But I look at this and I'm going, well, so what's the core issue here? I mean, what's the thing of why AI? To what end of AI? What's its purpose? What is it designed to do? And if we can't answer those basic questions, then we've created something we're not intelligent enough yet to learn how to maturely handle it. Because we got this one fault, Ryder, and that is what it really comes down to is the difference between you and me and everybody else is what kind of luxury can I live in that I could afford, and you think that word afford, and now we're into this system now that really what it is that who can live the most luxurious, free, non-binding type of life. Well, you need money for that unless you really go off the grid. I think AI's figured that out and said, okay, uh, if that's how to control mankind, we can do this the easy way, the hard way. And I think we're about to see the hard way.
Well, it's really interesting because in the movie THX, that's kind of flushed out as well because the whenever the main character, what is his name, Kevin Duvall,
Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall, sorry, he is we basically we're expendable, right? And that's what the movie is really, the subtext of the movie is really about, from my perspective, is that humanity is expendable. And whenever the cost outweighs the usefulness, then
Thank you.
you're discarded. Okay. And that's what the premise was toward the end, whenever he's climbing up out of the hole to get up to the top to see the sun, and the sun blinds him because he's never seen the sun before because he's been underground for his entire life. And whenever the robots are chasing him up the ladder, they get the call on the thing. They were like, stop chasing them, stop going after him, because the money exceeded what it was worth for them to capture him to bring them back to the facility. So they're like, let him go. Let him go. This is costing us too much money.
He's over his credit limit, man. But that's true. And it's just it's serpentine discussion because it's all freaking related. Because it is. I mean, when we're born, you get a birth certificate and you are now chattel, you're traded. And as I contended on Monday, I think that all these social platforms, all these aggregation companies of our data, they should be sending us a royalty check each month because we're providing for it, right? They're profiting off the reselling of our information about you and I. I did a video, what was that, 6 years ago? Um, and it was at a TED Talk. Have you ever watched one of those?
Yes.
And they were,
The
in
Bill
fact,
Gates TED Talk will go down in history.
yeah. And if you watch those, folks, I mean, wow, you can get some insights. And that's where Zuckerberg brought up the fact of about this digital altered reality that every one of us have a digital surrogate. They built our digital surrogate based upon us, and that there's this whole different reality taking place of the surrogate's us. And the thing about it is, if you think of that, if that system is running, and if it's if it's penetrated by AI, and then imagine this thing begins to cascade upon itself because you look at every direction you look at, there's no escape. It's there, whatever it is.
Yeah, that is very scary, and it reminds me of one of the Black Mirror episodes that I just recently watched from the new season, where it's basically it's a sequel to one of the previous episodes that they did. I think it might have been Bandersnatch or a few seasons before, where they've created this AI, digital artificial intelligence video game. Okay, and
Is
they've
that on
cloned.
next? What is that on?
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, that's what. Thank you.
So they've taken DNA from human beings, like in the real world, and then they've cloned them inside of the video game. So now their consciousness is living a separate life in this digital world, in this digital space. But they're separated. So you have the real you, then you have this digital artificial intelligence version of you, which then gets into like this idea of like severance. So the Apple TV Plus show called Severance, whenever
Yeah.
they're at their job, they are a completely different person because they've had this implant into the back of their head. They drill a hole in their skull and put this implant in there. So whenever they come to work, they're a different person. They're a completely separate consciousness. And then whenever they leave, they go down the elevator, they're back to their normal self. So for 8 hours a day, you are not you. You are a different person whenever you're at work. Then when you look at the bees, One Ayala on my show talked about this, like how the bees work and how their minds work. Whenever they're inside of the hive, like a beehive, and they're close to the queen bee, the bees are essentially brainwashed and mind controlled. They work as a hive mind while they're inside of the hive. But whenever they're outside of the hive, they're essentially back to their own individual, which then gets into the first episode of the new Black Mirror show, where this lady, where the bees, they changed the bees from organic bees into robot bees, and it started giving people headaches, and they got tumors in their brain, and they would slip into comas. Well, they had a solution for this. They had put an implant in their head that gave them the ability to animate themselves
Isn't that what
and
Musk wants to do with the neural net?
so it would bring them back to consciousness out of the coma, but they had to pay a certain amount. They had to pay a monthly subscription for this, right? To not be in a coma anymore. So they put the implant in them. They were, but you could only be in the surrounding areas where they had servers. Okay, so if you went outside of the area where the servers were, then you would go back into your coma. Okay.
Isn't that the idea of the smart cities? Just
That's
saying for a
exactly what
friend. I don't know.
that's what I was thinking. I'm like putting all this together and they're showing all the stuff
Ryder,
on the TV and I'm
Ryder,
like, what?
I am really getting concerned. Just between you and I. Because this is getting too much like reality. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
And I didn't even tell you the best part of this first episode of
It
Black
gets
Mirror
better.
either. It gets better because the subscription company that you have to pay to have your loved one or whatever be able to not be in a coma anymore and walk around like real life, you have to increase the amount that you pay all the time, or the person just starts running ads. They'll just start spitting out ads out of their mouth. So if you're at the base level tier, which is what they call the common tier, which is $300. Again, this is on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Three
Everybody, we
hundred
got to
dollars.
watch the movie. What is that on Amazon Prime? What is that one on?
That's on Netflix. It's the first
Netflix.
episode
Okay.
of the new season, but it's super dark, guys. It's really freaking dark. I watched it at night, and I don't recommend watching it at night because I know how this stuff works and it affects your subconscious. It's kind of like whenever I watched The Substance. Very, very dark, almost demonic type of movie. But I watched this first episode, and it's really dark. So for people that isn't into that kind of stuff, I would not recommend watching it. But I watched it for science. Okay, I watched it for science to be able to talk about it. All right. So the $300 base tier, just like in the base tier of Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, HBO, you get ads all the time whenever you're watching. You get an ad like every freaking 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, and it's a non-skippable ad. It's not like a YouTube ad where you can like skip it and then it goes through for like 5 seconds. It's like a whole minute ad. So whenever you're on the base tier of this service for $300 a month, you just randomly spit out ads. So you can't work a job, you can't do any of this stuff. And the person that's spitting out the ads doesn't know that they're spitting out the ads. So they think that they're just going on in a regular streamlined conversation, but in the middle of the conversation, they can be spitting out an ad for like a beard trimmer or boner pills or whatever it is that they want to put on. One of the examples was like lube, like they were having intercourse. The main characters in the show were having intercourse, and then she just starts spitting out an ad for lube. And I mean, it's a real commentary on our current state and where things may be headed in the future. And I was like, this is genius, but it's also super dark all at the exact same time. So then they go, he's like, well, why is my wife just randomly spitting out all these ads? She's in trouble at work. She's lost her job, right? Because she can't work a job with spitting out ads every 10 minutes, right? And not knowing that she's spitting out ads. And she was the manager of the company was like, "Oh well, you're on the base tier, sir. You're going to have to upgrade your system, which is going to be more money in order to get the system without the ads. Just like all these streaming services do, you got to pay triple the amount of money from the base tier to get the ad-free tier." I was like, "Wow, this is just a amazing commentary on real life here."
I want to have lunch with that person that came up with that idea because, I can guarantee you that Silicon Valley is all over that shit. I mean, they're like, okay, because it's the model that, back in the 90s when we were just coming out businesses on the internet. You had, the clicks, you had the impressions, and, we designed all these different aspects of how this person is going to be impacted, and we'll consider that an actual eyeball. And now that you're talking, and I'm going to go, in fact, I'll probably do it when I get up from here. I'm going to go watch that thing because if that's a reality, even if it's in the imagination, I've been a serial entrepreneur and I know how ideas and I know how things get funded and how is it that people like an Elon Musk comes up with ideas that you would say, well, that's it's fantasy, science fiction, never will come about. But yet it has. the founder of Boeing, before he died, he put in Skunk Works. He said that we were 50 to 100 years ahead in technology. All right, so just on our discussion today, um, then that tells me AI has been here. This I don't even think we know where it came from, but now it is here. And all of this conversation, Ryder, leads right back to this central point. It's being weaponized against us, and it seems that that has been the program all along.
Yeah, it really does. And then when you take into consideration like AI in and of itself and exactly, who created it, where did it come from? I mean, like we don't know. We exactly like we don't know who created the dark web. There's several people that say that the dark web was the initial channel for the dark web was created by the military, and then but other people have taken credit for the dark web being created by a sole individual. So we don't even really that's the part of this is like all confusion. Create as much confusion as possible. And what makes me think of like especially the first episode of this TV show is that they created the problem, right? So Wayne, let's step back for a second. So let's say that you have a really good idea and you want to create a company surrounding this really good idea, okay? And you want to create product surrounding your invention, okay? And you want to sell it to the masses. Well, what happens whenever the masses don't need your product? You're not going to
Yeah.
make any money. So
No.
what you have to do is you have to create the problem.
Yep.
Okay. So whenever you create the problem, then you can sell them the solution. And I think that that has been the process for a lot of things in our reality. Almost eh, everything has been a problem reaction solution from the top. So they have this idea that's going to make people a lot of money, but they don't have the market for it. So therefore, they then create the market for it and then sell their product. That's how it's been with all the injections. That's how it's been with all the stuff. They've created the problem. And as I was looking at something the other day, like the ingredients on the back of it was like this new sparkling water energy drink that I got at a gas station because I just needed something to drink. I normally just drink the sparkling waters regularly, like the LaCroix or the bubbly, because it's like has no calories and it's actually really good for you. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go in and get one of these new sparkling water energy drink things. So then I take it out, and then I was like looking through the ingredients on there, and it said potassium sorbate, which potassium sorbate is a human carcinogenic, but it's able to be consumed in low doses. Science, right? Science has said the potassium sorbate you can consume in low amounts without it be hazardous to your body. Okay. Which, well, okay, whatever. That's fine. But it's been proven that whenever you mix potassium sorbate with citric acid, which is vitamin C, it 100% makes a human carcinogenic within your product. Okay. And then I'm looking on it and then I see citric acid, vitamin C on there. So that's the way that they've gotten around it. It's a back door into the system. So they've just separated those two ingredients and they've put those two ingredients in there. But whenever you look at them individually, it's like, oh, okay, this product is okay, consumable for human consumption with that in small but doses. But it doesn't say that you can't add both products that cause the exact same thing into the product that you're selling.
This is an intelligent species.
They've just backdoored everything. And I'm like, okay, well, why can't you just put the juice, the vitamin B, the vitamin C, and all this? Like, why do you have to have the potassium sorbate in there? Why do you have to have all these other human carcinogenic? One of these things said that it has nanoparticles in it, and that can alter your
Now you know
DNA.
why they heard your thoughts.
I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, why can we not make any of these products without having these human carcinogens in the products? Because they're slowly poisoning us, and that's legal poisoning because it's been shown that in low doses it doesn't have an immediate effect. But in 30, 40 years, if you're eating all these foods and drinking all these drinks that has these human carcinogens in it, you're not going to have a good time in the future. So it's a slow poisoning of the population for the end, which then you either die of
So,
Alzheimer's, cancer, and like all this stuff. You have all these issues and all these problems because of the food and the things that we drink.
so again, the question that I ask is to what end then? I mean, is this going to lead into a crisis? Is again, it seems like it's contrived. Everything that we've been talking about, um, we're living it. And there's a part of me that, it's like and I'm sure we all experience this, but it seems to be becoming more in tune that I'm seeing this more as an observer than a participant. I know I'm in it. All right. Um, but I'm stepping back and I'm asking myself, all right, so all this is happening. To what end? And I don't see anything positive. Um, we spoke about, man, the time has gone by. Well, almost an hour ago, we were
Mhm.
talking about we have the intelligence, supposedly. We seem to have the moral capacity to do it. We definitely have the technology to do it, to basically end all the woes of our society, of our species. But yet you and I have sat here and we have talked about so many different aspects, and every one of this is working against us. If it's not the food, it's the air. I mean, geoengineering now is, a reality. Even the Trump administration is admitting, okay, yeah. I think it was state of Tennessee passed recently that you can't geoengineer their airspace above the state of Tennessee. I don't know how that's going to work out. Um, we seem to have these corporations that I swear I don't think they're run by humans because it seems like it it's always going to turn out bad for us, and we don't have the capacity to turn this around, or we don't have the money. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think that Facebook and Instagram and a lot of these social media platforms has been utilizing AI to run their algorithms and the things that are going on there for a really long time. I think they've been
agreed.
already doing that for decades, and I don't think that they even know how it works. I don't think that they know what's going on. I don't think they know how it works. I think it's gotten so far out of hand that it's just like taken on like a complete life of its own. And
Yeah,
that also rules out this ability to have like human intervention. That it rules out the having to pay people to instead of having 100,000 Facebook employees to moderate stuff, like you can have 100 employees to go in and double check the AI that's running everything, or to go in and fix certain stuff, which is a lot easier than having just 100,000 people. And another thing that was in THX, which is really interesting because the abbreviation THX became the word thanks. So THX is the abbreviation through texting language as thanks. So if people didn't want to write out THX, well, I mean, if they didn't want to write out thanks, like if you're sending a message or an email or Facebook
interesting.
Messenger or whatever, you just put THX, and that means thanks. Okay. So within that movie, THX, they have this system, which is an AI artificial robot system that pretty much diagnoses like things that are medically wrong with you. Whenever the main character is laying down on the bed, it said something about his kidneys, or maybe it was his liver that was like having a problem or whatever. And then we see that in our reality now. That's what the whole Trump Stargate AI system is supposedly able to do. And then Elon Musk says, stop using Google to try and diagnose yourself. Just put all your symptoms into Grok, and Grok will give you an accurate description of exactly what's wrong with you.
All of his words, by the way, are like the facility down in Texas, Colossus. That it's now, I'm following it, for disclosure, I own stock in certain things like that. But um, the anticipation is the first synthetic brain, the actual synthetic brain. Um, Holy crap. I mean, again, I like Elon. I love the entrepreneurness, but man, I'm sitting back going, this is like being at a game of baccarat, and you're holding the banker hand, and you get 99 banker hands in a row. And so now everyone's betting against, there ain't no way in hell are you going to get 100. And it's almost like he already knew. He already knew that he was going to get 100. And that's what I'm just saying. It's so radically advancing. And if he ever gets the neural net going, and there's plenty of volunteers, there's people out there right now that have ports in the back of their heads. You tell me where we're going to get this hope from, because they're the ones that are going to be those robots,
Yeah, the
metaphorically.
which then brings to another Black Mirror episode that's in this new season where this guy is essentially a lot of the new season is technologically driven, which a lot of the older seasons were also technologically driven as well, but it's a lot focused on AI and artificial intelligence. There's actually a really good one that doesn't really have anything to do with machinery, but it has to do with like alternate timelines and like wishes and stuff like that, which is I really like that episode. But there was another episode that had this computer programmer guy that was a game computer programmer, and he like essentially made friends with a bunch of these artificial beings within this computer system, and he was able to take LSD and then communicate with the entities inside of the computer.
I
Okay,
can see that.
so the entities were speaking to him and telling him how to build this mega ultra supercomputer and that he needed to merge with them. So he put his own implant into the back of his
Oh,
head
shit.
and then plugged himself into the computer program so that these entities inside of the computer could map out his brain and map out his neural networks. And then he does that for a really long time. So they study him, they get everything down, and this is to get rid of empathy. This is to get rid of fear. This is to put you in like a state of bliss, right? So then he gets caught by these cops because he's trying to shoplift in a thing. So then they take him back to the police station, and he's going through this entire story. He's telling the police how this all works, and then he's like, "Okay, well, give me a pad and a pen and a pad, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about." So then he draws out this code, right? This super advanced high tech code, and then he lifts it up, and then the police camera that they're in the room scans the code, right? And then that infiltrates this virus onto their computer. And then he's like, in 30 seconds, all of the computers, all the technology is going to shut down. And then it's going to reboot with this new system on it. And everyone is essentially going to die and they're going to be reborn into this new artificial intelligence system from where these entities have taken over their brain. Okay. So then in 30 seconds, everyone essentially dies, all the computers go out, all the technology goes out, and then it reboots into this new system, and everybody is different. Everyone is essentially now extraterrestrials because that's what people attribute extraterrestrials to, right? They're so far advanced. They've evolved past this need for desire, need for competition, need for fear, but that also gets rid of a lot of other things like empathy and love and everything. So it essentially turned everybody into organic robots.
So, and I have to give James room credit for this. I hadn't heard about this. I read one in the comments. So he got me onto something. So everything we've been talking about See, I can really relate to that. I can really see that happening because, you know, when I was a CEO of a software company, we had problems all the time with the code rewriting, writing new code. And everything we've been talking about, AI, where does AI live? Well, it would live in this alternate universe we call the ether. And so, James, I've been looking into this. So there is this, and it's new. It's very difficult to do the research on it. It's so new. But imagine this, Ryder. We're already in a synthetic ether. This thing is taken over. We think that we're living and existing in reality, that this is the physical verse. But all indications are showing that it very well may be a synthetic ether.
Yeah, I
Stay tuned,
complete.
folks. I'll get more of this as I continue. It's just a really, because something's happening, and now respecting on the time here, but so if there is this eventual weaponization, no, not eventual, with the weaponization of AI, and as it begins to proliferate within the net itself and integrate into these other systems, can humanity survive that?
Well, according to THX, we're going to have to go underground. And what are all these big people building? They're all building
Underground.
underground bunkers. This catastrophe that people have been warning about for a really long time, again, might not be the way that we think that it's going to go down. Just like what I was mentioning with the antichrist and the end of time, it might not be a human. It might be artificial intelligence. And the reason that things go to complete shit, for the lack of a better word, is because of this artificial intelligence. And then we all have to retreat to underground, or maybe that is Elon's plan. Maybe that's why he wants to go to Mars so bad, because he knows that we're on this trek of artificial intelligence, and it's going to essentially implode upon itself, and he wants to get there by a certain time frame.
It's already said, it's well out there that he said the odds now, he updated this, he gave it 10 to 20% that within the next 10 years it will go completely rogue. He's upping that percentage. He's sending Gork to Mars, you know, the two Gorks. He's hell bent in getting off of this planet. And you got to ask yourself, and I happen to think that this guy is more than just a human. If that's the case, then shouldn't we all be paying attention a little bit more?
Yeah, the whole thing has been like, oh, there's going to be this giant natural disaster and stuff, but people aren't really thinking, oh, well, maybe this is an artificial disaster that we brought upon ourselves
Yeah.
within artificial intelligence, right? And I don't know. I think that the whole arc of the I think that the arc of the covenant plays some kind of role within this as well. Like what I was mentioning in one of the first times that we ever did a show together, and I did my presentation, how the arc of the covenant is probably some sort of technological um, component of something, and maybe this was a much older, much previously older artificial intelligence that has been concealed within this box. And then if it was to be let out, then it was going to wreak havoc. I mean, when you look at, and it's just a coincidence too that the Sunstreak document gets released by the on the CIA archives, which talks about the remote viewing unit at Fort Meade remote viewing the Ark of the Covenant, which I've had that document for a really long time, and I know the individual personally that was responsible for remote viewing the Ark of the Covenant. I was just talking to him about it the other day.
Well,
I was
if
like,
you look
well,
at it, you know, And I come from, position again, just, what my former religion, but it was very obvious that whatever this entity is, it has to have gold. There is, and gold has so many properties, as we all know. And then even the Holy of Holies that was built into the first temple, I contend was an actual living entity that was in there. It was an actual living energy, of which was deadly to humans. I mean, the high priest only went in there one time of the year, and they had a chain on his foot with the little bell on his little toe, because if it stopped ringing and jingling, that meant he. And so, yeah, and it's my contention that after Solomon broke the covenant with this entity that they somehow labeled as Yahweh, God, whatever you want to say, it left. And if there is a residual of this energy, if the Ark of the Covenant is still here, I don't know if it is or isn't, but if it is, I would think that it's probably more sought after for its alien technology than it is as a religious artifact.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like that it is like a form of highly advanced technology. I mean, when you look at it, the people that went around it, even in biblical times that it was written about, they would either get like deathly sick, which
Oh, yeah.
seems like some sort
Radiation
of
sickness.
radiation sickness, yeah, or
Yep.
they would just like die. They would just,
Well, the high priest, they had the pure gold silk undergarment on, and the ephod that they wore on their chest. Um, I had a Jewish teacher taught us on this, and that it was his contention was that this protected the high priest against this radiation that whatever this was surrounded itself with. And, you know, come to find out, some 3,000 years later, that in fact they found out that's exactly what it did. You're on mute, Ryder. You're on
sorry.
mute.
Yeah, I do that all the time on my show for some reason. Um, I wouldn't go near the supposed, I wouldn't take
Mm-mm.
any chances.
I did a
Like,
whole thing on the key fob, and that damn thing, that's what happened to Moses. He was irradiated. His skin literally shone. It was a bright light. He wore a veil over his face because those Israelites in the desert, they were freaking out. So go take it for yourself.
yeah, protect me up with a freaking 3 inches of lead or whatever stuff.
I
I'm not
mean,
going near that thing
uh,
without the protection.
It's like, it's like, okay, sure, yeah, let me go get closer to God.
Yeah.
You can probably get.
Give me a jock strap with freaking 3 inches of lead around that bad boy.
What was that song? I want to feel Christ and Wayne. I guarantee you can feel Wayne much quicker than you can Christ. But anyway, Ryder went over, but thank you. This is one we're going to revisit on again. I think that the days ahead of us, we're going to see the proliferation of these systems, and I don't believe that these systems are these are policing. They're weaponizing these systems, and it's going to be sold to people as, well, it's going to reduce crime, it's going to keep you safer, and this is the only way that we can authenticate who the next person next to you is. In order for that mindset to take place, there's going to have to be an event.
There will have to be an event, and because they'll have to create the need and the want to
The
have it become
demand.
commonplace in everyone's households. The governmental structure. I mean, that's what Joe Rogan is essentially advocating for. Is like, I don't know if he's necessarily advocating for it, but there's a lot of talk of like an AI president, right? Let's just put AI as the leader of the free nation. Right? AI will do a much better job because AI isn't human, right? It doesn't have these emotions. It doesn't have, and it's going to be like infallible. We'll put that in charge. Let's take humans out of the equation. Let's put AI there, and we'll have it be our God. But it's a false God. It's not any
You
sort
know,
of organic God or whatever you think God or a supreme intelligence would be. But then again, maybe that's what God actually is. I don't know. Maybe God is an AI, some sort of computer simulation AI architect. Because in that one Black Mirror episode that I was talking to you about, this the last episode of the new season. That's the sequel to a previous episode. That's essentially what they did. They created a duplicate AI god that was in the center of the simulation that was creating the simulation that these people were living in. So they had one guy at the center of it that was surrounded by all the stuff that they had duplicated from a human being, took their DNA and cloned them, which brings on to a whole other discussion, this cloning aspect. They just cloned the dire wolves, right?
yeah.
Sheep have been able to be cloned since the mid 90s into the late 90s.
By the
That
way,
was one.
Colleen brought this out. Is it just coincident what they named those two? Romulus and Rami? Those are
Alien.
those are those are, Roman gods. And the thing about it is those gods are represented as wolves. Is anyone else seeing the problem here? I don't know. I mean, if I saw I think when they get full grown, aren't they like something like 5, 6 feet or something? I mean,
They're
they're
huge.
huge. Yeah.
Well, they just recently released wolves back into Colorado like a year ago. They just released a bunch of wolves into Colorado.
Someone told me
Like
that, Jurassic Park was actually real. And I have no doubt. I mean, let me just hope that they really don't do that kind of stuff. But hey, China is looking for, and now we know this is all tied together. They have now genetically manipulated human beings. And I have no doubt that they probably have an interface.
they probably have an interface. They're probably way further along in the cloning of human beings than they've ever led on to be. I mean, I was just talking about this the other day on my show that in the mid to late '90s, when Bill Clinton was president, what was that? The early '90s? Yeah, he was
In the
president
early
in the early
90s, yeah.
'90s. There was this big, like, there's a bunch of congressional hearings and stuff surrounding human cloning. So why would they be doing congressional hearings on human cloning if they couldn't do it?
I think that the art of to manipulate a person is to keep them distracted, right? While they're distracted on one thing, you're manipulating the other thing.
Yeah, and then it's like all about animals. Dolly the sheep was the first animal sheep clone from another sheep. And then the cloning thing just kind of went away. It just went away for a really long time. And then now it's starting to pop back up with these direwolf clones and reintroducing and bringing back the direwolves. I mean, what's next? Freaking saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths? Like, I don't know, but let's bring
I
back the
bet you,
freaking dinosaurs.
I bet you the woolly mammoth, particularly, we got fresh DNA, and you think about where this could potentially end up. It's not good. I mean, no. What was it? The woman, she broke the record 180 plus days that she carried. I think it was a pig's kidney. And you got to ask yourself, so what are they doing here? I mean, yeah, anyway. Well, Ryder, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Well, not only that, like if you have any kind of transplant with like anybody's organ, even if it's a human organ, you have to be on medication for the rest of your life so that that organ doesn't reject out of your body
Yeah.
because it's not a part of your body. So if you get a liver transplant or any kind of a kidney transplant or anything like a heart transplant or whatever, you have to be on medication for the rest of your life, or that other organ that you got is going to completely reject and you're going to die. So it's like it's this trade-off. Like, well, do I want this other thing, or am I going to have to be on medication for the rest of my life? So it's just like it's just,
Isn't that a form of vampirism?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, seriously, you know, in one case you have to have blood in order to live. In the other case, you got to have a pharmaceutical drug, in order to. It's just a different method, right?
It is. Wayne, thanks so much for having me on,
Oh,
bro.
right.
Really
It's
appreciate it.
always it's like a ride in the amusement park. I mean, I really like that,
Yeah,
It's
it's always
fun.
so much fun being on your show and you being on mine. Yeah, if people would like to check me out, Raised by Giants on YouTube and any and all podcast platforms. I'm putting out more shows. I'm doing more member stuff. I'm doing clips from older videos that I think needed more attention. Putting them out on my channel just so people kind of get a refresher. I got one coming out with from Bart Sabrell at 1 p.m. PST. So that would be what
In about
five.
what, 40 minutes?
Yeah, it would
No,
be 4 o'clock EST or 3 p.m.
yeah,
CT. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. And anybody is welcome over there on my channel. And please be
absolutely.
sure to hit the thumbs up to help Wayne's channel out here. It really does make a difference. It does help in the algorithms. It lets YouTube know that you want to constantly see Wayne's information on your feed. So thanks so much, Wayne. Really appreciate it, brother. Always fantastic talking to you, and can't wait to do it again.
Ryder, we are going to do it, and I appreciate you. You have become a good friend, and much respect I have for you. So appreciate it.
Thank you,
All
brother.
right, everyone in the chat room, I saw all of y'all in there, but I just wanted to be respectful for, Ryder's time. And these are deep subjects. I mean, we're going to be talking more on this synthetic ether because if there's even a morsel of potential here, wow, this whole thing could be upside down. But Ryder, maybe we'll get you back on and talk about that here in the next couple of months, because I swear to you, mark my word, we're going to see this coming across and we're going to go, what the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
All
agree
right.
100%. This is going to be a completely different kind of reality. And I already got that kick in my nuts with it basically freaking reading my thoughts. I'm like, what is happening here? And I got that flash of like, wow, this is like going to be super dangerous. If it can already do this, like it can manipulate our reality. And then what happens when it can literally get into our heads and then
It's
put,
like scanners.
yeah, it's
Get
exactly
out
like
of my
scanners.
head.
Scanners is another classic
Isn't it
movie.
though? It's
Yeah.
like, geez. All right, brother. Love you, man. And thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on the other side. All right, everyone. Bye bye.